Our story begins in a world of monsters and men, a dark, medieval land where magic is real, dangerous, and often cursed. In this world, fairy tales are not for children. They are grim and cautionary tales about what lurks in the deep, dark woods, in forgotten ruins, and sometimes in the hearts of men themselves. Monsters are not just myths, they are a real and constant threat. Ghouls feast on the dead after a battle. Griffins snatch livestock from farmers' fields. And powerful wraiths haunt the homes of kings and commoners alike. To combat these threats, a special kind of hunter is needed. A professional, someone who can stand against the horrors that normal soldiers cannot. They are known as witchers. They are not ordinary men. Taken as children, often as orphans or unwanted sons given away, they are brought to remote fortresses where they undergo agonizing and often lethal magical rituals. They are subjected to the trial of the grasses, a process that uses powerful mutagens to permanently alter their bodies, granting them superhuman strength, speed, reflexes, and senses. But before we journey on, feel free to like and subscribe, but only if you enjoy this quiet space and you'd like to hear more told in this way. The trials give witchers their iconic cat-like eyes that can see in perfect darkness, and they grant them an unnaturally long life to perfect their deadly craft. But this power comes at a great price. The mutations make them sterile, unable to have children of their own, and their changed nature makes them outcasts from society, feared and despised by the very people they are paid to protect. Our story follows the most famous of all witchers, a man known throughout the land as the White Wolf. His name is Geralt of Rivia. He is Geralt of Rivia. He is a master swordsman, carrying 2 blades on his back, one of steel for man and the monsters born of their own hatred, and one of silver for the unnatural creatures of magic and curse. His hair is as white as snow, a side effect of the unusually harsh mutations he endured, which should have killed him, but instead marked him forever. He wanders the land on his trusty horse, Roach, moving from village to village, taking on contracts to slay the beasts that plague the good people of the world. He is a man of few words, a grim outcast, forever caught between the world of monsters and the world of men, belonging to neither. Our story opens not in the present, but in a dream. Gerald dreams of a quiet, peaceful day at the ancient mountain fortress where he was raised, the Witcher school known as Kaer Morhen. The old castle is in ruins, but in his dream it is filled with warmth and life. He dreams of his mentor and father figure, the wise old witcher named Vesemir. He dreams of his great and complicated love, the powerful and beautiful sorceress Yennefer of Vengerberg, with her raven-black hair, her piercing violet eyes, and the scent of lilac and gooseberries that always seems to follow her. And most importantly, he dreams of a young girl with ashen hair, who he is training in the art of the sword on the castle battlements.
This is Ciri, a young princess who is Geralt's adopted daughter, his child of surprise, bound to him by the ancient law of surprise and by a deep fatherly love. In this dream, they are a strange but happy family. Geralt and Vesemir teach the young girl how to fight, while Yennefer teaches her how to control the powerful and often dangerous magic that flows within her. It is a memory of a peaceful time, a rare moment of happiness in the Witcher's long and difficult life. It is a dream of the family he never thought he would have, safe and together in their mountain home. But this peaceful dream is about to be shattered. Suddenly, an unnatural, magical blizzard descends upon the fortress, covering everything in ice and snow, even though it is the middle of summer. A great, terrifying ship made of dark ice and carved with skeletal figures appears in the sky above the castle. This is the Wild Hunt, a spectral army of riders from another world, who are known in folklore as omens of war and death. The spectral warriors descend upon the castle, their armor covered in frost, their eyes glowing with a cold blue light. A desperate battle begins as the small family fights to protect Ciri from these otherworldly invaders. The dream has become a nightmare.
The dream of Kaer Morhen turned into a desperate battle for survival. The spectral warriors of the Wild Hunt poured into the castle courtyard. Yennefer, the powerful sorceress, created a shimmering magical barrier to protect Ciri, but it began to crack and splinter under the Hunt's relentless assault. Geralt and his mentor, Vesemir, fought back to back, their Witcher swords flashing in the unnatural, frosty light. They were two of the greatest swordsmen in the world, but they were vastly outnumbered by the otherworldly soldiers. Ciri, no longer just a student, fought alongside them, her own small sword moving with incredible speed and grace. The air was filled with the clash of steel, the roar of Yennefer's fire magic, and the terrifying, inhuman shrieks of the Wild Hunt's warriors. It was a chaotic and desperate defense of their home and their family. Then the leader of the Wild Hunt appeared. He was a tall, imposing figure in terrifying, skull-like armor that was covered in ice. He radiated an aura of immense power and cold. This was Eredin, the king of the Wild Hunt. He did not engage in the fight himself. He simply watched, a silent king observing his soldiers' work. He raised a hand and cast a powerful spell, freezing Geralt in place, rendering him helpless. Geralt was forced to watch as Eredin's massive general, Imlerith, moved to grab Ciri. Eredin spoke to her then, his voice like the grinding of glaciers, telling her it was time to end her journey and give him the power of her elder blood. But Ciri, in a moment of pure terror and defiance, unleashed the full, raw power that was hidden within her.
She let out a piercing scream that was not just a sound, but a physical shockwave of pure magical energy that shattered the ice and threw the warriors of the hunt back in a brilliant, blinding flash.
The sheer force of Ciri's magical outburst shattered the dream world into a million pieces. And with a sudden, violent start, Geralt awoke. He was not at Kaer Morhen. He was not fighting a spectral army. He was lying on his bedroll next to a simple campfire on the side of a muddy, war-torn road. His old friend and mentor, Vesemir, was sitting beside him, tending the fire. The battle, the snow, the wild hunt, it had all been a nightmare, a powerful and vivid memory of a past event that still haunted him. Vesemir, seeing the look of terror on his friend's face, asked him about the dream. Geralt recounted the vision, the same nightmare he had been having for weeks. It was always the same. The wild hunt was still chasing Ciri, and he was still desperately trying to find her before they did. This was their current quest. They were on the road together, following a trail of clues left by the sorceress Yennefer. They had received a letter from her, magically perfumed with her signature scent of lilac and gooseberries. The letter was damaged, but it had instructed them to meet her in the nearby village of Willoughby. When they had arrived, however, they found the village had been burned to the ground, a casualty of the Great War that was raging across the land between the Empire of Nilfgaard and the Northern Realms. Their only remaining lead was to travel to the larger nearby village of White Orchard. They hoped that someone in the local Nilfgaardian garrison might have seen or heard of a powerful raven-haired sorceress passing through. With the memory of the nightmare giving their quest a renewed sense of urgency, the two old witchers put out their fire and set out on the path once more. Geralt and Vesemir arrived at the bustling village of White Orchard. It was a small, simple place, but it was clear that the Great War had reached even here. The village was now occupied by a garrison of soldiers from the invading Nilfgaardian Empire, their black and gold banners hanging from the buildings. The local Temerian peasants looked upon these foreign soldiers with a mixture of fear and quiet resentment. The two witchers, with their strange eyes and their twin swords, were greeted with the same suspicion from both the villagers and the soldiers. They were outsiders, belonging to neither side of the human conflict. They made their way to the local tavern to gather information. The air inside was tense. The locals drank quietly, while the Nilfgaardian soldiers drank loudly, celebrating their recent victories. The witchers began to ask questions, looking for any word of a raven-haired sorceress with violet eyes. Their presence immediately drew attention. A group of racist locals, full of drink and misplaced courage, began to insult Geralt, calling him a freak and a mutant. Geralt, a man who had endured this kind of prejudice his entire life, remained calm, his voice low and steady. He dealt with the men not with violence, but with a weary intimidation. His cold reptilian eyes promising a world of pain if they did not back down. They quickly lost their nerve and left him alone. After the brief confrontation, the innkeeper, grateful for the lack of bloodshed, confirmed that a woman matching Yennefer's description had indeed been there, just a day before. She had gotten into her own violent skirmish with some Nilfgaardian soldiers and had left in a great hurry. This lead pointed them directly to the commander of the local garrison. Perhaps he knew where the sorceress had gone. Geralt met with the captain of the Nilfgaardian garrison. The commander, a pragmatic and professional soldier, was not hostile. He was impressed to be in the presence of the legendary Geralt of Rivia, the White Wolf of Witcher fame. He admitted that he knew of the sorceress Yennefer. He confirmed that she had been there, and that she was also asking about a young woman with ashen hair. He knew where she had gone, but he was not willing to give away such valuable information for nothing. He had a problem, a monster problem, and he saw the perfect solution standing right in front of him. He explained that the entire region of White Orchard was being terrorized by a massive royal griffin. The great beast had been attacking his soldiers on patrol and killing the local villagers, and none of his men had the skill or the courage to kill it. He made Geralt a formal offer, a classic Witcher's contract. If Geralt, the famous monster slayer, would use his legendary skills to hunt and kill this griffin, he would, in return, provide the Witcher with all the information his spies had gathered on Yennefer's whereabouts and her purpose in this region. It was a familiar story for Geralt. To pursue his own personal quests, he first had to solve the monster problems of others. It was his job, his purpose, and his curse. Without hesitation, he accepted the contract. The search for Yennefer would have to wait. The new, immediate quest was the Griffin Hunt. He left the garrison and began his investigation, heading off to speak with a local hunter who had survived a griffin attack, and to find an herbalist who could help him prepare the perfect bait for the great beast. The hunt had begun. The Witcher began his hunt for the griffin just as he had done 1,000 times before, not with his sword, but with his intellect and his enhanced senses. A Witcher's work is often more like that of a detective than a simple monster slayer. He first spoke with a local hunter who had survived an attack, learning where the beast was last seen and how it behaved. Then he followed the trail into the woods towards the site of the last known killing. Using his Witcher senses, a magical ability that heightens his perception, the world around him came alive with clues that no normal human can see. The scent of the griffin lingered in the air, and the tracks of the great beast were highlighted on the ground. He found the bodies of the Nilfgaardian soldiers who had been its last victims, and by examining their wounds, he pieced together the story of the fatal encounter. His investigation led him high into the hills, where he found the griffin's massive nest. There, amidst the bones of its prey, he discovered the source of the creature's rage. He found the body of another griffin, its mate, who had been killed by the Nilfgaardian soldiers. Geralt now understood the full story. This was not just a random monster attacking people. This was a grieving royal griffin, lashing out in pain and anger after its partner had been slain. This knowledge added a layer of tragic complexity to the hunt. The beast was not evil. It was a creature of nature, acting on its own powerful instincts. But it was still a threat to the people of the village, and his contract was clear. Now that he understood his enemy's motivations, he knew how to prepare the perfect bait to draw it out into the open for a final confrontation. He gathered a special herb with a pungent scent called buckthorn, knowing the territorial and agitated beast would not be able to resist investigating the smell. With his investigation complete and the bait prepared, Geralt was ready. He met with his old mentor, Vesemir, in a wide, open field, giving them plenty of room to maneuver. Together, the two seasoned witchers set the bait and waited for their prey. It was not long before they heard a terrifying screech from the sky above. The great royal griffin descended upon them, its massive wings blocking out the sun. The battle was a difficult dance of life and death. The enormous beast swooped down, its sharp talons extended like razors, its powerful beak capable of tearing through steel armor. The two witchers moved with a lifetime of experience, dodging and rolling away from its powerful attacks. They used their simple magic signs to throw blasts of fire at the creature, stunning it for brief moments. In these small openings, they would rush in and strike at it with their silver swords, chipping away at the monster's strength. It was a long and exhausting fight, a true struggle between two master hunters and a powerful, grieving beast. Finally, after a great effort, Geralt dealt the final fatal blow. The great beast crashed to the ground, its reign of terror over the village of White Orchard finally at an end. The contract was complete. He took a trophy from the monster to prove his kill and returned to the Nilfgaardian commander. The captain, a man of his word, gave the witcher his coin purse and, more importantly, the information he had promised. He confirmed that the sorceress Yennefer had been there and was also asking about Ciri. He told Geralt she was last seen riding towards the great city of Vizima, the occupied capital of Temeria. With their business in White Orchard now finished, Geralt and Vesemir set out on the road again, heading south, one step closer to finding Yennefer.
With their business in White Orchard now complete, Geralt and Vesemir began the long journey south, following the trail of Yennefer toward the great city of Vizima, the occupied capital of the kingdom of Temeria. As they traveled, the landscape grew more scarred by the Great War. They rode past burned-out farms and saw long lines of desperate refugees on the roads, fleeing the conflict. The horrors of the war between the northern realms and the invading Nilfgaardian Empire were on full display. Finally, they arrived at the towering gates of Vizima. The city was a massive, fortified fortress, now flying the black and gold banners of Nilfgaard. A long line of refugees waited outside the gates, hoping for entry. But the Nilfgaardian soldiers were turning most of them away. When the two witchers approached the gate, they were stopped immediately. The soldiers were not hostile, but they had specific orders. They would not allow both witches to enter the city. However, they informed Geralt that a royal summons has been issued for him. The Emperor of Nilfgaard himself, Emhyr var Emreis, wished to have an audience with him. Knowing that refusing an emperor was not a wise decision, Geralt agreed. This is where he and his old mentor had to part ways. Vesemir, seeing that Geralt was now on a path dictated by the most powerful man in the world, decided he would return to the Witcher's Keep at Morhen. He would wait for winter there and research the wild hunt in the fortress's ancient library. After a quiet, respectful farewell between the two old friends, Vesemir rode north. Geralt, meanwhile, was escorted by the Nilfgaardian soldiers through the great gates of Vizima, into the heart of his enemy's power.
Geralt was escorted through the occupied city to the royal castle. The atmosphere inside was tense and formal. The old Temerian banners had been torn down and replaced with the black sun of Nilfgaard. Generals and ambassadors spoke in hushed, serious tones, planning the next stages of their great war. Before being granted an audience with the Emperor, Geralt was forced to take a bath, get a shave, and dress in fine but uncomfortable courtly attire. It was a subtle display of power, a way of reminding the rugged Witcher that he was now in a world of politics and royalty, and that he would have to play by their rules. Finally, he was led into the throne room. There, he came face to face with the ruler of the most powerful empire in the world, Emperor Emhyr var Emreis. He was a cold, intelligent, and intimidating man who radiated an aura of absolute authority. The Emperor did not waste time with pleasantries. He revealed the true reason he had summoned the Witcher. He knew that Geralt was searching for Ciri. He then revealed a secret that changed everything. Ciri was his own biological daughter, the last heir to an ancient elven bloodline that gave her immense magical power. The Emperor officially hired Geralt for the most important contract of his life, not as a simple monster slayer, but as the man Ciri trusted most in the world. He tasked him with finding his daughter, who was being relentlessly pursued by the wild hunt. In exchange, he promised Geralt a reward beyond measure. He then gave the Witcher his first real lead in this massive search. He told him that his spies had tracked Ciri to the war-torn swamps of Velen, a lawless no-man's land nominally ruled by a local warlord, a man known as the Bloody Baron. Geralt's quest now had a clear new direction.
Leaving the cold, imperial court of Vizima behind him,
Geralt of Rivia began his journey into the heart of the war zone. His destination was the miserable, swampy province known as Velen, or the No Man's Land. As he rode, the well-maintained imperial roads gave way to muddy, rutted tracks, and the signs of civilization were replaced by signs of brutal conflict. Velen was a land that had been utterly ravaged by the war between Nilgard and the Northern Realms. It was a bleak and desolate place, a vast swamp where the sky was a constant, gloomy gray, and the air was thick with the smell of mud and death. The Witcher rode past entire villages that had been burned to the ground, and he saw the grim sight of gallows trees, their branches heavy with the bodies of deserters and supposed spies, left as a warning by the passing armies. The people who still clung to life here were poor, superstitious, and deeply scarred by the horrors they had witnessed. They were caught between two great armies, suffering at the hands of both. They were hostile to all outsiders, trusting no one. And the war had brought more than just human monsters. The constant death and decay had drawn all manner of foul creatures to Velen. Ghouls and wraiths feasted on the bodies left on the battlefields, and great beasts, long since driven from more civilized lands, now roamed the dark, ancient forests freely. This was a land of profound misery, a true no-man's land, where the only law was the law of the sword. Geralt, a man who was no stranger to the darkness of the world, could feel the immense weight of the sadness that permeated this place. He knew that the man who could rule a land like this must be a very hard man indeed. His quest for Ciri had led him to the darkest corner of the war-torn north. Following the Emperor's lead, the Witcher traveled to the fortress of the local warlord, a muddy but well-defended place called Crow's Perch. It was a rough wooden fort built on a high rock overlooking a miserable little village whose people lived in constant fear of their own ruler. The Baron's men were much like their leader, rough, drunken, and quick to violence. After a tense conversation at the gate, Geralt was finally granted an audience with the man who ruled this land. He entered the main hall and came face to face with Philip Stringer, a man known to all his subjects as the Bloody Baron. He was a large, loud, and boisterous man, his face red from drink. He was a brutal soldier who had seized power in the chaos of the war. But underneath his rough exterior, the Witcher could see a deep sadness and weariness in his eyes. Geralt explained that he was looking for a young woman with ashen hair and a scar on her face. The Baron's jovial mood instantly vanished. He grew quiet and serious. He revealed that Ciri had been there. He told the Witcher that he had found her, wounded and terrified, in the woods some weeks ago, and that he had taken her in and treated her like his own daughter. But the Baron was a man who knew how to make a deal. He refused to say anything more about where Ciri had gone
until the Witcher did a favor for him first. The Baron's own wife, Anna, and his daughter, Tamara, had recently vanished without a trace. He wanted Geralt to use his legendary tracking skills to find them. A new, unexpected contract had been struck. To find his own adopted daughter, the Witcher first had to find the Baron's lost family. He had to unravel the dark and tragic secrets of the bloody Baron himself.
The Witcher began his investigation not in the wild swamps, but within the stone walls of the Baron's own fortress. His task was to find a missing wife and daughter, and he started where they were last seen, their private rooms. Using his enhanced Witcher senses, which allow him to perceive things no normal human can, he began to piece together the story of that fateful night. The first clues he found told a grim tale. In the main chamber, he discovered a large, dark stain of spilled wine on the floorboards, and a single, heavy candlestick that was out of place, a clear sign of a drunken argument. He followed a faint scent to the bedroom of the Baron's wife, Anna, and his daughter, Tamara. There, the signs were even more disturbing. A wooden post in the wall was splintered and broken, evidence of a violent physical struggle. The Baron's story of a simple disappearance was beginning to unravel. Deeper in the room, hidden beneath the floorboard, Geralt found the most unsettling clue of all. It was a small, handmade doll, strangely crafted and bound with a lock of human hair. He recognized it immediately as a tool of folk magic, a type of charm or curse. With this evidence in hand, he returned to the Bloody Baron. He confronted the large man with the truth he had uncovered, that there had been a violent, drunken fight on the night his family vanished. The Baron's boisterous and jovial facade crumbled. With a look of deep shame and regret, he confessed. He told Geralt that he had come home drunk, as he often did, and had gotten into a terrible argument with his wife. He admitted that he had a problem with drink, and that his temper often got the better of him, leading to violence. The simple case of a missing family was now clearly a much darker and more tragic story of domestic despair. The strange doll and the signs of magic led the Witcher to believe that more than just a family argument was at play here. He knew he needed the help of an expert in local folk magic and ancient rituals. His investigation led him away from the Baron's fortress and to a secluded hut on the edge of the nearby woods. This was the home of Velen's cunning man, a village mystic known only as the Peller. Geralt found the Peller, a strange and eccentric old hermit, surrounded by herbs, animal skulls, and magical charms. The Witcher showed him the handmade doll he had found in the Baron's chambers. The Peller recognized it immediately as a powerful magical charm, a curse. He then revealed that the Baron's wife, Anna, had come to him for help. He explained her tragic story.
She was suffering from the Baron's violent outbursts and had recently suffered a miscarriage, losing their unborn child. She was seeking a magical way to protect herself from her husband. The Peller agreed to help Geralt to perform an ancient magical ritual that could divine the location of the missing wife and daughter. But first, he explained, he needed the Witcher's help. His prized goat, a creature he called Princess, had run off into the woods, and he could not begin the important ritual without her. And so the great monster slayer, Geralt of Rivia, the man hired by an emperor to find the savior of the world, first had to put his legendary tracking skills to find a lost goat for a strange old hermit. It was a perfect example of the strange and often absurd life of a witcher on the path, where epic quests are often interrupted by the mundane and peculiar needs of the people he encounters. After a brief and rather undignified hunt through the woods for the runaway goat, the Witcher returned the animal, whose name was Princess, to the Peller. True to his word, the old mystic began the ancient ritual to divine the whereabouts of the Baron's lost family. He chanted in an old, forgotten language, as the smoke from burning herbs filled his small, cluttered hut. The air grew thick with the smell of magic and damp earth. In the swirling smoke of the fire, visions began to form, fragmented and confusing, but holding the key to the entire mystery. The Peller, acting as Geralt's guide into the spirit world, interpreted the shifting images. The visions revealed two clear and very different fates. First, he saw the Baron's daughter, Tamara. She had not been taken or harmed. She had, in fact, run away from her father after their terrible final argument. The vision showed her safe and sound within the walls of the great free city of Oxelfurt, where she had sought refuge with her uncle. The Baron's daughter was safe, but the vision of his wife, Anna, was much darker. He saw her being dragged away against her will, not by men, but by a strange and ancient evil force. He saw gnarled trees and murky water, and a small, forgotten village in the heart of a terrible swamp. The Peller was terrified by what he had seen. He told the Witcher that Anna had been taken by the ancient evil that resides in the heart of the most dreaded place in all of Velen, a dark and twisted swamp known as Crookback Bog. He warned that the power in that bog was older and more terrible than any monster. Geralt now had his leads. The Witcher now had two paths to follow. He could travel to the safe city of Oxenfurt to confirm that the Baron's daughter, Tamara, was truly safe. Or he could venture into the dark heart of Crookback Bog. Knowing that the daughter was likely out of immediate danger, Geralt's duty as a monster hunter and his need to solve the darker mystery compelled him to follow the more dangerous lead first. He prepared his potions and his silver sword, and he began the grim journey into the swamp. The deeper he rode into Crookback Bog, the more the world seemed to change around him. The landscape became twisted and sick. The great trees were gnarled and dying, their branches like skeletal fingers reaching for the gloomy gray sky. The air was thick with the smell of rot and decay, and strange, unnatural fog clung to the ground. It was a place that felt truly and anciently evil. As he navigated the murky waters and treacherous paths, he came across a strange sight. A trail of colorful sweets, candies, and pieces of gingerbread had been left on the ground, leading deeper into the swamp. Geralt knew this trick from the old fairy tales. It was a lure used by evil creatures to tempt lost children to their doom. His sense of dread grew, but he followed the strange trail, his hand resting on the hilt of his silver sword. The trail eventually led him to a small, miserable village in the heart of the bog, a place called Downwarren. The few villagers there were strange and secretive, their minds addled by the dark influence of the swamp. From them, he learned that the swamp was ruled by 3 mysterious sisters, whom they called the Ladies of the Wood. The villagers worshipped these beings as goddesses, leaving them offerings of food in exchange for their protection. But Geralt knew that these were the ancient, evil beings the Pellar had warned him of. They were more commonly known by the terrified peasants of Velen as the crones of Crookback Bog. Geralt approached the strange, isolated village of Downwarren. The few villagers there were gaunt and fearful, their minds seemingly addled by the oppressive atmosphere of the swamp. He spoke with the village elder, who explained the strange relationship the people had with the rulers of the bog. The villagers saw the crones as their goddesses. They would leave offerings for them at a special altar, and in return, the Ladies of the Wood would offer them protection and a strange kind of prosperity. The elder explained that the crones were also very kind to the village children, often taking in the orphans or the unwanted mouths to feed, caring for them at a special place deep in the woods, along the Trail of Treats. The Witcher's instincts immediately told him something was deeply wrong with this arrangement. Powerful, ancient beings who demand tribute and take children are never truly benevolent. The elder directed him to a small hut on the edge of the village, where an old woman, known only as Gran, was looking after a group of these orphaned children. When Geralt arrived, he found the old woman to be hostile and secretive. But while speaking with her, he noticed one of the children playing with a small, familiar object. It was a toy that he recognized as belonging to Ciri. He now knew for certain that Ciri had been here in this very village. As he was piecing this together, a strange, magical event happened. The crones themselves began to speak to him, their 3 unsettling voices echoing together through the bodies of the children and old Gran. They knew who he was,
and they knew what he wanted. They told him they would grant him an audience to discuss the ashen-haired girl and the Baron's wife, but only if he first proved his worth by completing a task.
The crones gave Geralt his task. They told him of another powerful, ancient spirit that lived in the swamp, an entity that was a rival to their own power. This spirit, they claimed, was a great evil, and it was trapped beneath a massive, ancient tree on a nearby hill known as the Whispering Hillock. They commanded Geralt to go to this hillock and destroy the spirit for them. Only then would they speak with him further. Knowing he had no other choice, the Witcher agreed and set out for the dreaded hill. The atmosphere grew even more menacing as he approached. The hill was surrounded by wolves and other monsters, and the great, gnarled tree at its peak felt ancient and profoundly wrong. As he got closer, he heard a voice whispering to him directly in his mind. It was the spirit, trapped within the tree. The spirit told him a very different story. It claimed that it was not an evil entity, but an ancient guardian of the forest that had been maliciously trapped by the evil crones centuries ago. It told him that the crones were the true monsters, that they were not caring for the children of the village, but were in fact fattening them up to be eaten during their magical Sabbaths. The spirit then offered Geralt a counter deal. It told him that if he performed a ritual to free it from its prison beneath the tree, it would use its power to rescue the orphans from the crone's clutches before they could be harmed. Geralt was now faced with a terrible choice, a classic lesser evil dilemma that Witchers so often face. Should he trust the powerful and clearly manipulative crones and kill the spirit as they asked? Or should he trust the unknown whispering spirit and risk the crone's terrible wrath in order to save the lives of innocent children? His decision would have profound and tragic consequences for everyone in Velen. Standing before the ancient whispering tree, Geralt made his choice. He could not bring himself to kill the spirit, not when the lives of innocent children were at stake. He decided to trust the spirit's promise and risk the wrath of the crones. He performed the ancient ritual, using his magic signs and his knowledge of old rites to break the curse that held the entity bound to the tree. As he completed the ritual, the great oak shuddered, and a powerful spectral force was unleashed. It did not appear as a gentle druid, but as a great, wild black horse made of shadow and rage. It was a primal force of nature, now untethered. True to its word, the spirit thundered away from the hillock and galloped like the wind to the nearby village of Downwarren. It arrived just as the crone's minions were about to take the children, and in a storm of chaos, it drove the villains away and spirited the orphans to safety. Geralt had succeeded in his moral quest. He had saved the children, but he had also defied 3 of the most powerful beings in all of Velen, and had unleashed another ancient, unknown power upon the land. He returned to the village of Downwarren to find a scene of carnage. The spirit, in its rage, had not just saved the children. It had also slaughtered the adult villagers who had been worshipping the crones. The Witcher was once again faced with the harsh reality of his world. There were no simple, happy endings. His choice to save the children had come at the cost of many other lives. With a heavy heart, he now had to return to the crones, his task technically complete, but in a way that he knew they would not appreciate. He braced himself for their anger, knowing that their bargain was about to take a dark and twisted turn.
When Geralt returned to the altar in the heart of the bog, the crones appeared before him, and they were furious. They knew he had freed the spirit and helped the children escape. For a moment, he thought they would attack him, but they were ancient beings bound by their own strange rules. A deal was a deal. The spirit was gone from the hillock, so he had fulfilled his task. With great reluctance, they upheld their end of the dark bargain. They told him what they knew of the ashen-haired girl, Ciri. They revealed that Ciri had indeed appeared in their swamp some weeks ago, wounded and running from the wild hunt. They had taken her in and tended to her wounds, showing her a false kindness. But their intentions were evil. They planned to capture Ciri and hand her over to the king of the wild hunt themselves, in exchange for magical favors and immense power. Ciri, however, sensed their evil intentions. She used her unique ability to travel between worlds to escape from them before the wild hunt could arrive. The crones told Geralt that the last they saw of her, she was fleeing towards the lands north of Velen, in the direction of the great city of Novigrad. This was the missing piece of the puzzle. Geralt now understood the full story. Ciri had fled from the crones and ended up at the Baron's fortress. He now had the information he needed to report back. But as he turned to leave, the crones delivered one final cruel twist. They told him that since he had freed the spirit that protected the bog and cost them their prize of children, they were keeping Anna, the Baron's wife, as their new servant, cursed to live out her days in servitude. Geralt rode back to the fortress of Crow's Perch, his mind heavy with the dark secrets of the swamp. He now carried the full, complicated truth of the story. He found the bloody Baron and reported his findings. First, he fulfilled his main contract. He told the Baron what the crones had revealed, that Ciri had appeared in Velen, wounded and on the run from the wild hunt, that they had taken her in with evil intentions, and that she had used her powers to escape them, fleeing north towards the great city of Novigrad. The Baron, a man of his word,
was now ready to tell Geralt his side of the story. The narration now shifts as the Baron himself begins to speak, telling Geralt about the time the ashen-haired girl had spent at his fortress. He described finding her near death in the woods and bringing her back to Crow's Perch. He and his wife, Anna, had nursed her back to health, and he had come to care for the young girl as if she were his own daughter. He spoke of her kindness and her bravery, but he also spoke of the terrible shadow that seemed to follow her. His story culminated in the day that a massive, monstrous beast, a basilisk, had attacked his fortress. It had been sent by the Wild Hunt as a scout, drawn to Ciri's power. He described fighting the creature on the castle walls alongside Ciri. During the battle, she had used her incredible magical ability to teleport, moving in the blink of an eye to strike the beast down. It was this great display of power that had acted like a magical beacon, allowing the Wild Hunt to pinpoint her exact location. Immediately after the basilisk was defeated, the spectral riders of the hunt themselves appeared in the sky above the castle. Ciri, knowing they had come for her, told the Baron she had to leave to protect his people from the conflict. In a flash of green light, she teleported away. That was the last the Baron had seen of her. He did not know where she had gone, only that she was still being hunted. Geralt now had another piece of the puzzle. Ciri had been here, in Velen, and her trail now led to the great city of Novigrad.
With the Baron's story finished, Geralt took a deep breath and delivered the grim news he had learned in the swamp. He told the Baron the full truth about his wife. He explained that Anna had made a pact with the evil crones of Crookback Bog, and that as a result of Geralt's own actions in freeing the spirit of the Whispering Hillock, the crones had placed a terrible curse on her. She was now their captive, transformed into a hideous monster and forced to serve them. The Baron, though a hard and often cruel man, was completely broken by this news. But his grief quickly turned to a soldier's resolve. He declared that he would not leave his wife to suffer such a fate. He would gather his most loyal men and march on the swamp himself to rescue her. He asked the Witcher to help him one last time. Geralt, feeling a sense of responsibility for the events that had transpired, agreed. Together, they led a small force into the heart of Crookback Bog for a final confrontation with the crones. The battle was fierce, but they managed to fight off the crones' minions and find the cursed creature that was once Anna. The Witcher performed a dangerous ritual to lift the curse. For a brief moment, it worked. Anna was returned to her human form, but the dark magic had been too strong, and she died peacefully, moments later in her husband's arms, finally free. Their daughter, Tamara, who had also arrived with her witch hunters, saw this final tragedy and, after a sad farewell, chose to remain with her new military family. The Baron, now having lost everything, was a completely broken man. Geralt left him to his grief.
When he returned to Crow's Perch a few days later, he found that the bloody Baron, unable to live with his sorrow and guilt, had taken his own life. The long, sad, and complex story of Velen was finally over.
With the tragic story of the Bloody Baron now at its end, Geralt finally had all the information Velen could offer him. Ciri had been here, and she had survived. Her trail now led north to the largest and most powerful city in the known world. The Witcher collected his things and mounted his trusty horse, Roach. He left the bleak, war-torn swamps and the grim fortress of Crow's Perch behind him for good, and began the long ride north. The journey itself was a transition from one world to another. He left the land of folk horror and ancient woodland evils, and rode towards a new kind of wilderness, a wilderness of stone and intrigue and human ambition. After several days of travel, he saw it on the horizon, the great free city of Novigrad. It was a bustling, vibrant metropolis, the center of international trade and culture. Its great harbor was filled with ships from all over the world, and its streets were a crowded, noisy maze of towering buildings, grand temples, and dark, narrow alleyways. Unlike the rest of the north, Novigrad was not ruled by a king. It was a free city, where power was a constant struggle between the wealthy merchant guilds who controlled its commerce, the four great crime bosses who ruled its sprawling underworld, and the fanatical religious order that controlled its spiritual life. For a Witcher accustomed to the quiet solitude of the wilderness, the city was an overwhelming and dangerous new environment. The dangers here were not monsters with claws and fangs, but men with daggers in the dark, spies who listened in every tavern, and powerful figures who could make a man disappear without a trace. Geralt knew that finding his friends and Ciri in this vast, complicated city would be like finding a needle in a haystack. The Witcher quickly learned that the greatest and most immediate danger in Novigrad came from the city's dominant religion, the Church of the Eternal Fire. Led by a fanatical and cruel high priest named Caleb Meng, the church had begun a brutal crackdown on all magic users and non-humans in the city. A great witch hunt was underway. The church's militant soldiers, the Temple Guard, and their more sinister secret police, the Witch Hunters, patrolled the streets day and night. Mages, healers, alchemists, and even simple herbalists were being arrested on charges of heresy, paraded through the streets, and then publicly burned at the stake in the city's main square, Hierarch Square. The air in the city was thick with the smell of smoke and with a deep, chilling paranoia. Neighbors informed on neighbors, and any strange or unconventional behavior could earn a person a visit from the witch hunters. Geralt, as a mutant who used simple magic signs, knew he was in immense danger. He was exactly the kind of person the witch hunters were looking for, and he would have to move through the city with extreme caution. His first priority was to find his old friend,
the powerful sorceress Triss Merigold. He knew that as a known and powerful mage, she would be one of the witch hunter's primary targets. The search for Ciri must begin with a desperate search to ensure his friend is safe. He began his investigation in the city's shadowy underworld, seeking out old contacts and asking quiet questions in taverns and bathhouses. He was looking for any clue, any whisper that would lead him to Triss's hidden location before the church's fanatics could find her first. Geralt's search for Triss Merigold led him deep into the shadowy underworld of Novigrad. He navigated a world of thieves, spies, and beggars, piecing together clues from quiet conversations in dark corners. He soon learned that his old friend was not simply hiding. She was actively working to save her fellow mages. She had become a key figure in a secret underground railroad, a network designed to help persecuted mages escape the city before the witch hunters could capture them. His investigation revealed that Triss was working closely with one of Novigrad's most mysterious and powerful figures, the so-called King of Beggars. This man was a crime lord who ruled over the city's vast population of the poor and disenfranchised. His network of spies and informants reaching into every corner of Novigrad. The Witcher knew he needed to speak with this man. His journey took him into the city's poorest and most dangerous district, a place known as the Bits. After navigating the maze-like alleys and proving he was not an agent of the law, he was finally granted an audience. He met the King of Beggars, a cunning and surprisingly principled man named Francis Bedlam. Bedlam confirmed that he was indeed helping Triss, using his network to provide safe houses and information for the escaping mages, seeing it as both a moral duty and a clever way to undermine the authority of the Church of the Eternal Fire. He told Geralt where Triss's secret hideout was located, but he also gave him a grave warning. The witch hunters were closing in. Their spies were everywhere, and it was only a matter of time before they found her. The urgency of Geralt's quest intensified. He had to reach Triss, and fast. Following the information from the King of Beggars, Geralt made his way through the city to Triss's secret hideout, a small, unassuming apartment hidden in a crowded neighborhood. He moved stealthily, avoiding the ever-present patrols of the Temple Guard. He finally reached her door, and when she opened it, the two old friends were reunited at last. The moment was one of immense relief and warmth, a brief respite from the fear and paranoia that had consumed their lives. They were two people with a long and complicated history, who had faced countless dangers together, and their deep bond was immediately rekindled. But their peaceful reunion was cut short. Triss confirmed that her situation was desperate. The witch hunters had discovered her network, and she knew they were closing in on her location. She revealed the full extent of her plan. She was not just hiding. She was organizing a final mass exodus. She had chartered a ship and arranged for all the remaining mages in Novigrad to gather at a secret location, from where they would make a desperate run through the sewers to the docks and escape the city for good. It was an incredibly dangerous and ambitious plan, and she needed Geralt's help for the final, most perilous stage. She needed his sword and his skills to protect the fugitive mages on their journey through the sewers and to fight off the witch hunters at the docks. Geralt, without a moment's hesitation, agreed. His personal quest to find Ciri had now become intertwined with this dangerous, large-scale rescue mission. Before he could learn more about Ciri's fate, he first had to help Triss save the mages of Novigrad.
With their plan in place, Geralt and Triss set about their dangerous task. They met with the small, terrified group of fugitive mages at a secret rendezvous point in the city's underbelly. The mages were scholars and healers, not warriors, and their fear was palpable. Triss offered them words of comfort and hope, while Geralt stood as their grim and silent protector. Their escape route was not through the heavily patrolled city streets, but through the dark, winding, and rat-infested sewers that ran beneath Novigrad. The journey was tense and claustrophobic. They moved as quietly as possible, their only light coming from Triss's soft magical glow. The narration would not focus on grand battles, but on the quiet, creeping dread of their situation. Every distant shout from the streets above, every splash in the dark water ahead, could signal their discovery by the temple guard. The sewers were not just empty tunnels. They were a dangerous place in their own right. At one point, their path was blocked by a powerful katakan, a type of lesser vampire that had made its lair in the darkness, drawn by the filth of the city. While Triss protected the frightened mages, Geralt, the professional monster slayer, had to dispatch the beast quickly and quietly, his silver sword flashing in the gloom. It was a stark reminder that even when escaping from the cruelty of men, the world was still full of monsters. After what felt like an eternity in the dark, cramped tunnels, they finally saw a faint light ahead. They had reached the exit grate that led to the city's harbor. They could smell the fresh, salty air of the sea. The escape ship was waiting for them, and for a brief moment, it seemed like their desperate plan might actually succeed. As the fugitive mages scrambled out of the sewer grate and made a run for their escape ship on the quiet, foggy docks, their luck finally ran out. A large force of witch hunters, led by one of their cruel commanders, emerged from the shadows. They had been tipped off, and they had been waiting. The ambush was sprung. A desperate battle erupted on the docks of Novigrad. Geralt drew his sword, a whirlwind of steel protecting the fleeing mages. Triss Merigold, no longer needing to be subtle, unleashed the full force of her powerful magic, sending great gouts of fire and lightning into the ranks of the witch hunters. The two of them fought back to back, a seasoned witcher and a powerful sorceress, a deadly and beautiful combination. Their heroic stand bought the mages the time they needed. They scrambled aboard the ship, which quickly raised its anchor and began to sail away into the safety of the fog. With her people safe, Triss's part in the escape was over. In the quiet moments after the battle, she and Geralt shared a final, emotional farewell on the misty docks. She pleaded with him to come with her, to leave the continent and its endless wars behind. But Geralt, though tempted, knew he could not. His quest to find Ciri, his daughter, was the only thing that mattered to him. With a final, sad and passionate goodbye, Triss magically teleported onto the deck of the departing ship, leaving the Witcher standing alone on the docks. He had saved his friend and helped many innocent people find freedom, but his own quest was far from over. Now he had to find the bard, Dandelion. With Triss and the other mages now safely away from Novigrad, Geralt's focus returned to his own urgent quest. He still needed to find his best friend, the bard Dandelion, to learn what had happened to Ciri. He returned to Dandelion's recently inherited tavern, the Rosemary and Thyme, to begin his investigation in earnest. The place was quiet and empty, a sad testament to its missing owner. Searching his friend's room, Geralt once again picked up Dandelion's personal planner. It was filled with his usual flamboyant and overly poetic notes about his daily life, his new song ideas, and, most importantly, his many recent romantic entanglements. Geralt saw that the planner listed the names of several different women that Dandelion had been meeting with in the days leading up to his disappearance. The Witcher knew his friend well. He knew that to understand what Dandelion had been doing, he had to understand who he had been seeing. He realized that this list of names was his best and only lead. To find the bard, he would have to follow the trail of broken hearts he had left all across the great city. With a weary sigh, Geralt set out to interview his friend's many recent conquests. His first stop was to speak with a young woman named Vespula, who confirmed that Dandelion had been helping a young ashen-haired woman with a scar on her face. The first piece of the puzzle was in place. Dandelion was, without a doubt, directly involved in Ciri's disappearance from the city. Geralt's investigation now had a clear, if complicated, path forward. He had to become a detective, piecing together the final days of his friend's freedom from the stories of the women he had charmed. Geralt continued to follow the trail of clues from Dandelion's planner, meeting with the various women the bard had been involved with. Each one provided another small piece of the puzzle, another detail about the secret plan he and Ciri had been working on. He spoke with a laundry woman, a talented sword fighter, and even a young elven woman. Slowly, the full and very foolish picture began to emerge. Geralt learned that Dandelion and Ciri had not been simply hiding. They had been planning a dangerous heist. They were trying to steal the personal treasure of one of Novigrad's most powerful and sadistic crime bosses, a man known as Whoreson Jr.
They believed that this treasure was somehow magically linked to a curse, and that by stealing it, they could help Ciri understand her own powerful and often uncontrollable magical abilities. But the heist had gone horribly wrong. They had managed to get the treasure, but the crime boss's men had ambushed them. In the ensuing chaos, Ciri had been forced to use her immense powers to create a magical portal and escape the city, teleporting to an unknown location. But Dandelion was not so lucky. He was captured by the crime boss's men. To save his own skin and get himself out of trouble with the city's other criminal leaders, the crime boss then handed Dandelion over to the temple guard. The terrible truth was now clear. Dandelion was a prisoner of the fanatical witch hunters. He was being held in their inescapable dungeons, likely being tortured for information about Ciri, and was scheduled to be publicly executed in just a few days. Geralt had to find a way to rescue his best friend. To rescue Dandelion from the clutches of the witch hunters would be no easy task. A direct assault on their heavily guarded prison on Temple Isle was completely impossible. Geralt knew he would need help and a very clever plan. He met in secret with his old friends who were still in the city, the sorceress Triss Merigold, the boisterous dwarven warrior Zoltan Chivai, and a few of his other contacts from Novigrad's complex underworld. Together, they began to form a daring and intricate plan to save the foolish bard. They knew that Dandelion was scheduled to be transferred from his dungeon to Hierarch Square for his public execution. Their only chance was to ambush the heavily guarded convoy as it moved through the city streets. They needed to create a massive diversion, something that would draw the attention of the temple guard away from the convoy at the critical moment. The plan they devised was a theatrical one, something Dandelion himself would have appreciated. They would use their connections at a local theater to stage a chaotic and somewhat scandalous play in the middle of the city. The play itself would cause a riot, creating the perfect distraction. While the guards were busy dealing with the chaos of the riot, a small elite team led by Geralt and Zoltan would strike the prison convoy. It was an incredibly dangerous and complicated plan with 100 things that could go wrong. If they were to fail, Dandelion would certainly be executed, and they would all likely be captured and burned at the stake as well. But Geralt would not be deterred. Dandelion was more than just a friend. He was family. He was the one person who had stood by the Witcher's side through all his years of wandering. He had sung songs of Geralt's great deeds and had made the lonely Witcher a legend. Now, it was time for the Witcher to repay that loyalty. The plan to rescue Dandelion was put into motion. The staged play began in the city, and just as they had hoped, its controversial content caused a massive riot drawing hundreds of city guards away from their posts to deal with the chaos. In that moment of distraction, the prison convoy carrying Dandelion began its journey towards the execution square. It was the moment to strike. Geralt and Zoltan launched their ambush in a narrow city alleyway. A desperate close-quarters battle erupted between Geralt's small team and the elite temple guards who were escorting the wagon. The Witcher's sword was a blur of motion, his signs flashing as he fought to clear a path to his friend. It was a chaotic and bloody fight, but they were successful. Geralt fought his way to the prison wagon and finally freed a terrified but very grateful Dandelion. What followed was a desperate chase through the streets of Novigrad. Geralt and the newly freed bard fought and ran their way through dozens of enraged temple bards, climbing across rooftops and ducking through hidden back alleys. Finally, they managed to reach a secret entrance to a safe house run by their underworld allies, disappearing from sight just as the guards were closing in. The two old friends were finally reunited. Dandelion, safe at last, was able to tell Geralt the full story of what had happened. He explained that he and Ciri had been trying to steal a treasure to lift a magical curse, but the plan had gone wrong. He told Geralt that Ciri had been forced to use her immense power to escape the city, and that she had teleported to a new, distant land. The trail now pointed to the remote and windswept Skellige Isles. With the mystery in Novigrad solved and Dandelion safe, Geralt finally had his next destination. His friend had confirmed that Ciri, after her escape, had used her powers to travel to the remote and notoriously dangerous Skellige Isles. The Witcher made his way to the bustling port of Novigrad, a place filled with the sounds of gulls and the smell of salt and tar. He needed to find a ship captain brave, or perhaps foolish, enough to make the treacherous journey across the Great Sea. The waters between the continent and the islands were infamous for their violent storms and ruthless pirates. After a lengthy search and a hefty payment of coin, he finally found a captain willing to take the risk. Geralt boarded the vessel, and as the ship pulled away from the docks, he watched the great city of Novigrad, with all its dangers and intrigues, disappear behind him. The voyage across the sea was a long and difficult one. The northern waters were cold and unforgiving, and the ship was battered by rough seas and freezing winds. For weeks, Geralt spent his time on the deck, looking out at the endless gray water, reflecting on the long and complicated path that had led him here. He had traveled from the war-torn swamps of Velen to the corrupt heart of a great city, and now he was heading to the wild, untamed islands of a warrior people. His quest for Ciri had taken him to every corner of the northern realms. Finally, after weeks of travel, he saw them on the horizon. The jagged, snow-capped peaks of the Skellige Isles rising sharply from the dark, churning ocean. They were beautiful, wild, and intimidating. He had arrived in a new land, a land of hardy warriors, ancient traditions, and fierce, unbending pride. Geralt's ship docked at the main port of Kaer, the largest settlement in the Skellige Isles. He disembarked into a world that felt ancient and different. The air was crisp and cold, and smelled of pine and salt water. The people here were tall, strong, and hardy, with braided hair and beards, and they looked upon the outsider with a mixture of suspicion and curiosity. He quickly learned that he had arrived at a pivotal moment in the island's history. The old king of Skellige, King Bran, had just died. A massive wake, a celebration of the king's life that involved days of feasting, drinking, and fighting, was being held in his honor at the great fortress of Kaer, which overlooked the port. The narration would explain the unique culture of the Skellige people. They were not a single kingdom, but a confederation of proud and independent warrior clans, each ruled by its own jarl. Their next king or queen would not be chosen by simple inheritance. They would be elected by a vote amongst all the clan jarls. The late king's two children, the clever and strategic Kaer and her brother, the fiery and impetuous warrior Hjalmar and were the main contenders for the throne. All the most powerful and influential figures in Skellige were gathered at the fortress for the wake and the coming political struggle. And as Geralt learned from a local innkeeper, among them was the person he had traveled so far to find. The sorceress Yennefer of Vengerberg was a guest of honor at the wake, acting as an advisor to the late king's clan. Geralt's path was now clear. He had to make his way up the winding mountain road to the great fortress of Kaer, navigate the boisterous and potentially hostile gathering of Skellige's greatest warriors, and finally reunite with the woman he loved. Geralt made his way up the winding path to the great fortress of Kaer. He entered the main feasting hall and was immediately hit by a wall of sound and activity. He had walked into the middle of the late king's wake, a loud, chaotic, and uniquely Skellige celebration of a warrior's life. The hall was filled with hundreds of the Isle's greatest warriors and jarls who were drinking heavily, singing mournful songs of battle, and getting into vicious fistfights to honor their fallen king. The Witcher, an outsider in this close-knit and boisterous culture, navigated the crowd with caution, his eyes scanning the room for one particular face. And then he saw her, standing across the room, observing the chaos with a cool, powerful calm, was Yennefer of Vengerberg. With her raven-black hair, striking violet eyes, and elegant black and white clothes, she was a stark contrast to the rough, bearded warriors around her. He approached the sorceress, and they were reunited at last. They were two old, weary lovers, bound together by a powerful and complicated destiny that had spanned decades. Theirs was a stormy and passionate relationship, full of grand romance,
bitter arguments, long separations, and fateful reunions. They were two stubborn, difficult people who, despite everything, were drawn to each other like moths to a flame. They spoke quietly, their conversation a small, private island in the middle of the loud, drunken party. She confirmed that she too was here searching for Ciri. She had been using her powerful magic to investigate a strange magical anomaly that had recently occurred on one of the islands, an event she was certain was connected to their lost daughter. She told Geralt that she needed his help. She was preparing to perform a dangerous magical ritual, and she needed his skills as a witcher to ensure its success.
Yennefer explained her plan. The magical explosion she was investigating had occurred at the site of a battle, leaving behind a great deal of residual energy. She believed she could use a powerful and dangerous form of necromancy to create a vision of the event, allowing them to see exactly what had happened there. To focus and amplify her power for such a difficult spell, she needed a specific magical artifact. It was called the Mask of Ouroboros, and it was currently in the possession of the Archdruid of the Islands, a wise and powerful man named Ermion. Yennefer, being impatient and believing that time was of the essence, decided it would be faster to borrow the mask from the druid's laboratory rather than go through the lengthy process of asking for permission. She asked Geralt to accompany her on this delicate mission. They traveled together to the druid's private laboratory, a place filled with strange plants, ancient animal skulls, and humming with magical energy. The druid was not there, but his laboratory was not unguarded. As they entered, the lab's magical guardians, elementals of earth and air, came to life to defend their master's property. This was the first time in years that Geralt and Yennefer had fought side by side, and it was a stunning display of their combined power. The Witcher's blurringly fast swordplay and his simple, effective magic signs were perfectly complemented by the sorceress's devastating spells of fire and ice. They moved with the easy, practiced grace of two people who had been fighting together for decades, a nearly unstoppable force. They defeated the Guardians and retrieved the magical mask. With the powerful artifact now in their possession, they were ready to perform the dangerous ritual that they hoped would finally reveal what had happened to Ciri on these remote and stormy islands. Geralt and Yennefer traveled to the site of the magical cataclysm on Skellige, a ruined forest where the trees were blackened and the earth itself was scarred by immense power. There, Yennefer used the Mask of Ouroboros to perform a dangerous ritual of necromancy. She placed the mask on the body of a man who had been killed in the explosion and began to chant in an ancient language, her own power crackling in the air. Geralt stood guard, his silver sword drawn, protecting the sorceress from the vengeful wraiths that were drawn to the powerful death magic she was wielding. The ritual was a success. Geralt's mind was connected to the dead man's last memories, and he was granted a vision of the past.
In the vision, he saw Ciri. She was older, more powerful, and she was with a mysterious elven sage. They were not in Skellige at first. They were in a strange alien world with a red sky and bizarre plants running for their lives. The vision revealed the incredible truth of Ciri's long disappearance. She was not simply hiding, she had been world-hopping. Using her immense innate magical abilities, she and her elven companion were traveling between different dimensions and different realities, desperately trying to escape their relentless pursuers, the Wild Hunt. Geralt watched as Ciri and the elf opened a portal to Skellige, seeing it as a temporary hiding place. But the Wild Hunt followed them through. A great magical battle took place between Ciri, her companion, and the spectral riders. It was the resulting explosion of their combined powers that had caused the cataclysm that rocked the islands. In the chaos of the blast, Ciri had been separated from her companion and thrown through another unstable portal. Geralt now knew what happened here. Ciri had brought her terrible enemies with her. The vision was over. Geralt came back to his senses, and Yennefer, drawing on her own vast knowledge of elven lore, explained the full picture. She told him why Ciri was so important, and why the Wild Hunt would never stop chasing her. Ciri, she explained, was a child of the Elder Blood. This was an ancient and incredibly powerful elven bloodline, a genetic trait that had been carefully engineered long ago to create a child who could control space and time itself. Ciri was the last known heir to this legendary lineage, and her blood gave her the power to open gateways between worlds. The Wild Hunt, she revealed, were not spectral ghosts as many believed. They were a real army of elves from another dimension, a race known as the NL. Their own world was being slowly destroyed by a magical cataclysm known as the White Frost, an unstoppable, all-consuming ice age. Their king, a ruthless and ambitious leader named Eredin, believed that Ciri's elder blood power was the only thing that could save his people. His grand plan was to capture Ciri, harness her immense power to open a permanent gateway, and lead his entire elven race in a great conquest of Geralt's world, escaping their own dying reality and taking a new one for themselves. The stakes were now higher than Geralt had ever imagined. This was not just about saving his daughter, it was about saving his entire world from a determined otherworldly invasion. The vision had ended with Ciri being separated from her companion and cast into a new portal alone. The last piece of the puzzle, the cursed creature known as Uma, was now more important than ever.
With the full, terrible truth now known, Geralt and his allies knew what they had to do next. Their journey took them back to the Witcher fortress of Morhen. There, Yennefer performed a dangerous ritual and successfully lifted the curse from the creature Uma, revealing Ciri's elven companion, the sage Avalak. He told them Ciri was hiding on the mystical Isle of Mists. Geralt traveled there alone,
and after years of searching, was finally reunited with his adopted daughter. But their reunion was short-lived. The Wild Hunt, now knowing Ciri's location, descended upon Kaer Morhen in full force. A massive, desperate battle for the fortress ensued. The Witchers and their allies fought bravely, but the Wild Hunt's power was immense. The battle reached its tragic climax when Geralt's mentor, Vesemir, sacrificed his own life to save Ciri from the King of the Wild Hunt. Vesemir's death filled Ciri with a grief-stricken rage, and she unleashed her full, uncontrollable power, forcing the Wild Hunt to retreat. After mourning their loss, the heroes decided they would no longer run. They would take the fight to the hunt. They systematically hunted down and defeated Eredin's two most powerful generals, Imlerith and Caranthir, in a series of difficult battles. Finally, with their allies assembled, they used a powerful artifact called the Sunstone to lure Eredin's flagship into a trap. In a massive naval battle, Geralt boarded the spectral ship, and in a final climactic duel, he defeated Eredin, the King of the Wild Hunt. With the king dead, Ciri knew she had one last task. She had to use her power to enter a portal and confront the source of the White Frost, the cosmic cataclysm that threatened to destroy all worlds. She stepped into the unknown to face her final destiny alone. After a long, tense wait, Ciri returned. She had succeeded. She had faced the White Frost and used her power to stop the world-ending cataclysm. The great threat was finally, truly over. Sometime later, after the world had settled into a new, fragile peace, Geralt met with the Emperor of Nilfgaard. In a final act of love for his daughter, he lied to the Emperor, telling him that Ciri had died in her battle with the White Frost. He did this to give her the one thing she had never had: freedom. Freedom from her royal bloodline, from politics, and from the expectations of others. The Emperor, heartbroken, believed him and left her to her memory. Geralt then traveled to a small, quiet workshop where he had commissioned a master craftsman to forge a beautiful new Witcher's silver sword, with an inscription just for her. He took the sword to a tavern in the village of White Orchard, the very place where his long journey had begun. He sat and waited. Soon, a hooded figure entered and sat down across from him. It was Ciri. He presented her with the sword. He had given her the freedom to choose any path she wanted, and she had chosen the Witcher's path, the same path as her father. The story ends with the two of them, Geralt and Ciri, father and daughter, setting out on the road together, ready to face whatever new adventures lay ahead. Their long, painful journey was over, and a new, hopeful one was just beginning.